Film fans YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Josh, the Movie Apprentice, and today I am looking at Alex Garland's latest film, Civil War, starring Kirsten Dunst, Wagner, Moura, Cailee, Spaeny, Stephen McKinley, Henderson, and Jesse Plemons. This follows a group of war journalists as they travel across America during the midst of a second civil war. Before I get into my review, if you do like what you're seeing on the channel, click the like button and subscribe for more video reviews like it's coming all the time. But without further ado, let's jump right into this review. So Civil War, I'm going to say straight off the bat that if you are going into this expecting a massive political statement to be made by this movie, or if you're just going in to see a battle throughout the entirety of the film, then you're going to be disappointed on both counts, because this is neither about the why or the reason for the war, nor is it about depicting some epic battle sequences. This, first and foremost, is a film that focuses on the life of a war journalist and the sacrifice you have to make to your humanity in order to do the job in the best way possible. And that is told through the juxtaposing arcs of Kirsten Dunst's character and Cailee Spaeny's character. The start of the movie, Kirsten Dunst lead Lee, she is very much the veteran. She has turned off all emotions when it comes to covering war journalism. Whereas Cailee Spaeny's character, she still has that humanity. She still gets shooken up by events, and seeing the grotesque things that happen during war do disturb her in the early stages. But at a certain point, the lines between the two begin to blur slightly as one regresses and one advances more into the necessary mindset into war journalism. And I will be honest, when I went into this film, I did expect some political commentary, but as Lee's character says, and really sets the expectations for the movie, their job is to take the pictures without any emotional attachment and let other people ask the questions that these pictures do evoke. That sets the standard for the film going forward, and it almost feels uncomfortable how much they're able to switch off, because there is no good or bad guy in this from a war perspective. You see things mostly from the secessionist side of things. You see a lot of war crimes being committed by both sides. People being tortured, mass graves, people surrendering and getting executed without a second thought or remorse. There is a lot of graphic stuff that is covered in this movie, and it just so happens to have the backdrop of an American Civil War happening within it. You don't even know where the political alignment of the two sides is, because the president, we hear him speak, but he could be any president. And the two main states that secede are Texas and California. Even based on that information, you can't really tell what side they fall on. This is very much not trying to pick sides on who is the good or the bad guy. Sure, you see more things from the secessionist side, because whilst the US have basically seen the press as negatives, the secessionists will begrudgingly take them along. I will say the film has given me a big newfound respect for war journalists, because we see the images that they send back. We know they're in the war zones, but we never truly get to appreciate what they have to go through in order to obtain these shots. Seeing them basically being escort missions for troops that are both trying to achieve their mission, but also protect these civilians wearing these helmets and press jackets while they take pictures behind them, despite people dropping dead all around them. There is a morbidness to how the film plays out, how the first protocol for any photographer, when someone's been shot and is bleeding out or is set on fire, the first protocol is not to try and assist or intervene, but rather capture the moment, which is a really messed up thing when you really think about it on the consumerist media side of things. The whole final half hour in Washington, D.C. is pure cinematic perfection. The sound design in this movie is brilliant. From the needle drops that are usually more upbeat, directly juxtaposing the graphic images that we are seeing on the screen, to just how impactful the sounds are. Sometimes the sound will be completely sucked out of the movie. Sometimes it is overbearing. I really enjoy the fact that the sound design actually accurately portrays that you can't hear half yours being shouted by the soldiers to each other, because the gunfire is that damn loud. That is very accurate to what it would be like. Alex Garland is making a point at just how dangerous and stressful a war zone actually is, and doesn't hide behind any cinematic tricks. It very much gives you as close to a real interpretation of what it's like being on a war zone as it possibly can. It's very chaotic, very random at times. And when it comes to death in this movie, there is no death that is focused on or over glorified. Death in this is just a part of life, and it just happens. Most war movies tend to either show the harshness or they tend to big up someone dying slowly. But in this one, there is very little focus. It is always, we need to move on, we need to get the next best shot. That is always the focus of the journalist, which really adds to the tragedy of one particular character's journey. There's also a subtle theme in this of addiction. There is a sense that the journalists that are taking these photos, throwing themselves into these war zones, are chasing a high. There are several moments where we see these journalists doing risky things while not even on war zones, where they are jumping in between cars, driving super fast down the highway. They are necking bottles of spirit straight from the bottle. They are smoking that sweet Mary Jane. There is a sense of adrenaline and addiction that takes place within this, and that is a very subtle theme that I really enjoyed was played out in front of us, because it really added depth to all the characters involved. Wagner Moura for me was hands down my favorite character in this. There was definitely a few layers to him that you had to peel back across the course of the film. He was always upbeat, but he also had a fragileness to him that would eventually crack. But at the end of the day, he would always be focused on that next shot or getting that quote. And I feel like his performance in this is going to be understated thanks to the outstanding performances by Kirsten, Dunst, and Cailee, Spaeny. And Stephen McKinley Henderson playing the old journalist, the veteran. He acts as a nice foil to the very enthusiastic attitude that the rest of the journalists in the group have. There was a nice mix in between the four individuals taking these shots. And the photos as well are really good. There are moments where the film will literally freeze to show you a photo that has just been taken in the film, and it just works really well. The pacing in this film is really well done. Another performance I will say is really good is Jesse Plemons' small scene that he has in this movie. Genuinely, I am waiting for that movie to come out where Jesse Plemons plays a nice neighbor who's a serial killer by night. I feel like that would be a perfect role for him, because the whole scene with Jesse Plemons and what is going on in that scene is so tense. It is easily the most tense scene I have seen in a movie this year, and that is including anything that I saw in June Part 2. There is just a lot in this movie that I really loved. It doesn't 100% blow me away though. I will say that whilst I understood the point of having characters just casually discarded, there is a sense of being underwhelmed by some of the results, and the fact that while I do appreciate it didn't go down the route of showing who is good, who is bad, I do feel like a bit more context behind the war would not have gone amiss. I am asking the question, sure, but after watching nearly 2 hours of both sides committing heinous acts while these journalists are just taking photos of it, I felt like I needed a bit more subtext behind why this civil war has broken out. But fair play to the filmmakers. They really showed what a modern civil war would be like. And some of the sequences did remind me a little bit of Modern Warfare 3 back in the day when the war breaks out and you're fighting on American streets. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Cinematography-wise, soundtrack-wise, sound-wise, like technically, this film is a masterstroke of filmmaking, and the performances are really good in this as well. It isn't trying to be this deep political film. It isn't trying to be out this all-action set-piece movie. It very much focuses on a human story taking place with a backdrop of a second civil war. And for that, I count Civil War as one of the most unique and original movies that we have seen over the last few years. And Alex Garland, I have to thank him for that. Before I get into my grade, if you have made it this far into the review, make sure you have clicked that like button and subscribe for more video reviews like it's coming all the time. But without further ado, let's grade this. Civil War was a big surprise to me. I went in expecting one thing, came out with a whole different thing. On a technical level, this film is absolutely brilliant to look at and watch. All the performances are absolutely outstanding, and it is very nicely paced from start to finish. I was genuinely almost blown away by this film, but the lack of context provided to certain events and the very limited focus on the story behind the war does jar me a little bit, and the fact we never really get to see any of the stories or photos that we are seeing being taken throughout this film being put into the context of a website or a newsreel, it does leave me feeling like the film was missing just a little bit of something, but only a little bit, because this is a film that I really enjoyed, and definitely watch this in IMAX if you can. I'm gonna have to say that for me, Civil War is a great cup of tea. So Civil War, have you seen it? If you have, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Again, you like what you see on the channel, like button and subscribe for more video reviews. That's coming all the time. Coming next on the channel, it will be Back to Black most likely, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, everybody, I am Josh, I have been your Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.